Welcome to the Royal Griot. Thank you for joining our community of story lovers. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning in to experience the drama, the tears, and the triumphs of African storytelling. Now sit back, grab a tissue, and let's dive into today's story. Next. I roared, my voice vibrating off the glass walls of my penthouse office in Victoria Island. The heavy oak doors creaked open and my personal assistant, Tund, peeked his head in. He looked terrified. Good. Sir? He stammered, adjusting his glasses. That was the last candidate from the agency. The others? Well, they left after they heard you shouting at the previous lady. I spun my leather chair around to face the window. Below me, the chaotic beauty of Lagos sprawled out like a living creature. The yellow Danfo buses were ants in the distance, stuck in the eternal gridlock of the Ozumbam-Badu highway. From up here in my air-conditioned tower, I couldn't smell the exhaust or feel the humid heat. I was untouchable. I was Bolanle Awolowo, but I was also running out of time. Useless, I muttered, rubbing the bridge of my nose. They are all useless, Tund. I asked for a surrogate. A professional. Someone detached. The last one started asking about nursery decoration before I even looked at her file. She wanted a relationship, not a transaction. Sir, there is one more, Tund said softly. She is not from the agency. She was downstairs, arguing with security. She claims she saw the private listing we put in the papers 2 weeks ago. She says it's an emergency. I checked my gold Rolex. Send her in. I have 10 minutes before my meeting with the Japanese investors. If she wastes my time, you're fired. Tund nodded and vanished. I stood up and walked to the bar in the corner of the office, pouring myself a glass of water. I caught my reflection in the mirror. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a beard trimmed to perfection. At 38, I had everything a man could dream of. A private jet on standby at the Ikeja hangar. A mansion in Banana Island that was larger than most hotels. And fortune that intimidated politicians. But I didn't have a son. And without a son, my uncle, Chief Badmus, would trigger the clause in my late father's will and seize control of the Awolowo group. He was a vulture waiting for the carcass. I needed a biological heir and I needed one fast. But I didn't have the patience for a wife. Love was a liability. I saw what it did to my father when my mother died. It broke him. I preferred contracts. Ironclad, signed and sealed. The door opened again. I didn't turn around immediately. I wanted to intimidate her. I wanted her to feel the weight of the boardroom, the smell of expensive leather and old money. Sit, I commanded, my back still turned. I prefer to stand, thank you. The voice surprised me. It wasn't shaky or overly polite. It was tired, yes, but there was steel in it. I turned around slowly, swirling the water in my glass. The woman standing in the center of my office was not what I expected. The agency girls all wore designer knockoffs and heavy makeup, trying to look the part of a billionaire's baby mama. This girl, she looked like she had walked here from the mainland. Her dress was a faded Ankara print, clean but washed so many times the patterns were blurring. Her shoes were dusty sandals. Her hair was pulled back in simple cornrows, revealing a face that was striking not because of glamour, but because of a raw, undeniable beauty. Her skin was the color of deep mahogany, and her eyes, they were large, dark, and filled with a pain I recognized. What is your name? I asked, leaning back against my desk, crossing my arms. Simisola. Simisola Adebayo. And why are you here, Simisola? You don't look like the candidates on my list. I'm not, she said, her chin lifting slightly. I am not a professional surrogate. I am a seamstress. Or I was until my shop was demolished by the government last week. I am not running a charity, I said coldly. If you are here to beg for homeless assistance, the reception desk downstairs has a list of NGOs. I am not here to beg. Her voice rose, sharp and clear. She took a step forward and for the first time, I saw the desperation cracking through her composure. I saw your ad. Wanted, surrogate for high-profile individual. Compensation, 50 million naira. Is that real? Or is it just another lie rich men tell? 50 million. Pocket change to me. A life-changing miracle for her. It is real, I said, walking slowly toward her. I circled her like a shark. But the requirements are strict. Clean health bill. No history of mental illness. And most importantly, total emotional detachment. You carry the child. You deliver the child. You hand the child to me. You leave. You never look back. I stopped in front of her, towering over her frame. Can a soft-hearted seamstress do that? Can you sell your body for 9 months and walk away empty-handed? She didn't flinch. She looked me dead in the eye. I am not selling my body. I am renting my womb. And I am not soft-hearted, Mr. Awolowo. Not anymore. Poverty has a way of turning your heart into stone. I scoffed. We'll see. Why do you need the money so badly? Drugs? A debt to a loan shark? My mother, she whispered, the fight draining out of her for a split second. She has kidney failure. We have been managing, but after the shop was destroyed, we have nothing. We were evicted yesterday. We slept in a church porch last night. She needs surgery or she dies. I will not let her die. I studied her. This was the classic struggling narrative. The poor girl trying to save her family. Usually I found it pathetic. Today I found it useful. Desperation made people obedient. If she needed the money that badly, she wouldn't break the contract. She couldn't afford to. 50 million naira, I said, my voice low. Plus full medical care for your mother at St. Nicholas Hospital while you carry the child. Housing provided in the staff quarters of my estate. Food. Clothing. Her eyes widened. The mention of the hospital made her breath hitch. You would pay for her surgery? It's part of the package, I lied. It wasn't, but I needed to lock this down. But here are the rules. You live in my house, but you are not of the house. You do not speak to me unless spoken to. You do not bring your family to my estate. You take your vitamins, you eat what my chef cooks, and you stay out of my sight. And when the baby is born, you sign away all parental rights. If you try to claim the child, I will bury you in so many lawsuits your grandchildren will be born in debt. I walked back to my desk and pulled a thick document from the drawer. I slammed it down. This is the contract. My lawyers drafted it this morning. Sign it and the transfer for your mother's admission happens within the hour. Refuse and you can go back to sleeping in the church. Simi stared at the papers. I saw the war inside her. It was a deal with the devil. I was the devil. I knew I was being cold-hearted, but this was business. My legacy was at stake. She walked to the desk. Her hand hovered over the Mont Blanc pen lying there. Does it hurt? She asked quietly. What? Being so empty? Does it hurt to have so much money but need to buy a human life because no woman wants to stay with you for free? My jaw tightened. Rage flared in my chest, hot and sudden. How dare she? A nobody. A girl with dust on her feet. Sign the paper, Simi, I warned, my voice dropping to a dangerous growl. Or get out. She picked up the pen. Her hand shook, but she wrote her signature with swift, angry strokes. Simisola Adebayo. She dropped the pen and looked at me. I am doing this for my mother. Not for you. Never for you. I don't care why you're doing it, I snapped, snatching the contract. I pressed the intercom button. Tund, get the car. And call the driver. We are taking Miss Adebayo to the estate. And call St. Nicholas Hospital, tell them to prepare a suite for a kidney patient. I looked back at her. Go wait in the lobby. Don't touch anything. She turned to leave, her head high, her dignity wrapped around her like a shield. But as she reached the door, she stopped. Mr. Awolowo? What? You may own this building and you may own my time for the next 9 months. But you do not own me. Remember that. She walked out. I stood there staring at the closed door. My heart was pounding against my ribs, a sensation I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't attraction. It couldn't be. It was just the thrill of the deal. I had secured my heir. I had won. But as I looked out the window at the Lagos skyline, seeing the storm clouds gathering over the Atlantic, I had a sinking feeling. I had just invited a storm into my house. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the elevator. The limousine was waiting. It was time to take the incubator home. The drive to Banana Island was silent. Simi sat as far away from me as possible on the leather seat, staring out the tinted window as we passed the bustling markets of Oberland. She looked like a prisoner being transported to jail. When the massive iron gates of my estate rolled open, revealing the pristine white mansion with its manicured gardens and fountain, she didn't gasp. She didn't look impressed. She looked trapped. The car stopped. My driver, Sunday, opened the door. Welcome home, sir, Sunday said. I stepped out, adjusting my suit. Simi stepped out after me, clutching her small, tattered bag. Mrs. Okon, the housekeeper, will show you to your room, I said, not looking at her. It is in the west wing. Do not come to the east wing. That is my private sanctuary. Understood, she said, clipped. Just then, a sleek black Mercedes pulled into the driveway, tires screeching. My stomach tightened. The door flew open and a woman stepped out. She was dressed in red silk, dripping in diamonds, her face twisted in a sneer. It was Chantal, my ex-fiancée, the woman who had tried to trap me with a fake pregnancy 2 years ago. the woman I had banned from the estate. "Bolanle," she screamed, marching toward us, her heels clicking on the pavement. "You think you can ignore my calls? You think you can just move on?" She stopped, her eyes landing on Simi. Her gaze raked over Simi's faded dress and dusty sandals with pure disgust. "Who is this?" Chantel laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Did you fire the maid? Or is this your new charity case?" Simi stepped back, looking from me to Chantel. "Get off my property, Chantel," I said, stepping between them. "Security. I'm not leaving until we talk." Chantel shrieked. She lunged forward, grabbing Simi's arm. "Is this her? Is this the trash you replaced me with? Let go of me." Simi cried out, trying to pull away. "Don't touch her," I roared. But it was too late. Chantel shoved Simi hard. Simi stumbled back, her foot catching on the edge of the fountain. She flailed, crying out as she fell backward into the water with a massive splash. Silence fell over the courtyard. Simi surfaced, gasping, her worn dress clinging to her body, her hair ruined. She looked small, humiliated, and utterly broken. I felt something snap inside me. I turned to Chantel, my voice deadly quiet. "You have 5 seconds to leave or I will have you arrested for assault. And this time I will make sure you rot in a cell." Chantel looked at my face and saw the murder in my eyes. She turned and ran to her car. I rushed to the fountain's edge. I extended my hand to Simi. "Take my hand," I said, my voice urgent. Simi looked at my hand, then up at my face. Water dripped from her eyelashes. She was shivering. But the look in her eyes wasn't fear anymore. It was pure white-hot hatred. "I don't need your help," she spat, scrambling out of the fountain on her own, ignoring my outstretched hand. "I just need my money." She walked past me, leaving a trail of water on the expensive pavement, heading toward the front door as if she owned the place. I stood there, my hands still in the air, realizing that for the first time in my life, my money couldn't fix the mess I had just made. The trail of water on the imported Italian marble looked like a scar running through the heart of my home. I stood in the foyer, watching Simi disappear down the corridor toward the servants' quarters, her back stiff, her head held high despite the water dripping from her cheap dress. "Mrs. Ocone," I barked, my voice echoing off the high ceilings. The housekeeper appeared instantly, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked at the puddles, then at me, her face a mask of disapproval. Mrs. Ocone had raised me since I was a boy. She was the only person in this mansion who didn't fear me. "Sir?" "Get her dry clothes. Anything. Go into the guest suite and take some of the unused designer wear. And get her warm food. Pepper soup." She was shivering. Mrs. Ocone raised an eyebrow. "The guest suite? Those are Chanel and Gucci Bobo. You said she is staff. Just do it." I snapped, loosening my tie. I felt like I was suffocating. "And get a cleaning crew for this floor. It smells like chaos." I stormed up the grand staircase to the east wing, my sanctuary. I needed a drink. I poured a glass of aged scotch, my hands shaking slightly. The image of Simi falling into the fountain, pushed by Chantel, played on a loop in my mind. And then her refusal of my hand. "I don't need your help. I just need my money." She saw me as a wallet. Just like everyone else. Why did it bother me coming from her? My phone buzzed. It was Dr. Baligan from the fertility clinic. "Mr. Awolowo," his professional voice cut through my thoughts. "We are ready for the procedure tomorrow morning. Is the candidate prepared?" I looked out the window at the sprawling gardens of my fortune. She will be. The next morning, the silence in the limousine was deafening. Simi sat across from me, wearing a tracksuit Mrs. Ocone had found. It was 2 sizes too big, swallowing her slender frame. She looked like a child, but her eyes were old. She hadn't said a word to me since the fountain incident. "The clinic is discreet," I said, breaking the silence. I hated the silence. "Private entrance. No one will see you." She turned her gaze from the window to me. "I don't care who sees me. I have no shame. I'm saving my mother. You are the one hiding, Mr. Awolowo. You are the one ashamed that you have to buy a child because you cannot build a family." Her words were quiet daggers. "It is a business arrangement," I said coldly, opening my laptop to check the stock markets. "Do not romanticize it. And do not psychoanalyze me. You are here to provide a service. Like the pilot of my private jet or the gardener. Does the gardener have to carry your DNA?" she asked. "Does the pilot have to give up a piece of their soul?" I slammed the laptop shut. "We are here." The clinic in Ikoyi was sterile, white, and smelled of antiseptic and money. We were ushered into the VIP suite. The process was clinical, cold, detached. Exactly how I wanted it. I provided the sample. She was taken to a room. There was no romance, no touch, just science and contracts. When she came out an hour later, she looked pale. "It is done," Dr. Balogun said, wiping his hands. "Now we wait 2 weeks. If the implantation is successful, the first installment of the funds will be released." Simi looked at me. "And my mother?" "I have already transferred the initial deposit to St. Nicholas," I said, handing her a receipt. "She is in a private ward. Dialysis has started." For the first time her shoulders sagged. She took the receipt, her fingers trembling. She didn't say thank you. She just held the paper against her chest like a shield. 2 weeks. 14 days of torture. I buried myself in work. I spent my days in the boardroom, destroying competitors and acquiring 2 new telecom companies. I was the shark of Lagos, the ruthless billionaire. But every night I came home to a silent house. I checked the security feeds. I told myself it was to ensure she was following the dietary restrictions. I watched her on the grainy black and white monitor. She spent her days in the small library in the West Wing. She read voraciously. Sometimes she would sit by the window and sing. I couldn't hear the audio. I had disabled it to respect her privacy, or so I told myself, but I watched her lips move. She looked peaceful. She was a mysterious stranger living in my house, a ghost haunting my hallways. On the 14th day the intercom buzzed. "Sir," Mrs. Okon's voice was tight. "The doctor is here." I went downstairs. Simi was sitting on the edge of the sofa in the main living room. She looked nauseous. Dr. Balogun held a file. "Well?" I demanded, skipping the pleasantries. Dr. Balogun smiled. "Congratulations, Mr. Awolowo. We have a heartbeat." Relief, powerful and overwhelming, washed over me. My empire was safe. The clause was satisfied. I had an heir. "Excellent," I said, pulling out my checkbook. "Tund will handle your fee, doctor." I looked at Simi. I expected her to look happy. She had just earned the second tranche of her 50 million. Instead, she looked terrified. Her hand drifted to her stomach, hovering there. "You are carrying the future of the Awolowo group," I told her, trying to sound encouraging. "You should be proud." "I am carrying a baby," she whispered. "A baby that I have to give away." "For a price," I reminded her. "Don't forget the price." "I want to see my mother," she said suddenly, standing up. "I need to tell her I'm okay. I haven't seen her in 2 weeks." "No." The word hung in the air. "What do you mean, no?" "The contract states you are to remain on the estate for the first trimester. High risk of miscarriage. Stress. Infection. The city is chaotic. You stay here." "I am not a prisoner," she shouted, her temper flaring again. "She is sick. She is in the hospital because of you. She is in the hospital getting the best care in Africa because of me." I roared back, stepping into her space. "You sign the paper, Simi. You belong to the estate until that baby is born. You can video call her. That is all." She glared at me, tears welling in her large, dark eyes. "You are a monster. You think money solves everything. But you are poor, Bolanle. You are the poorest man I have ever met." She turned and ran back to the West Wing. I poured myself another drink. Why did her words sting? I was the richest man in Nigeria. How could I be poor? That night, a storm rolled in from the Atlantic. Thunder rattled the window panes of the mansion. I couldn't sleep. I felt a strange unease, a tightening in my chest. I got up and walked to the balcony of my room, looking down at the grounds. The security lights swept across the wet pavement. Then I saw it. A small figure moving in the shadows near the back gate. I squinted. It was Simi. She was wearing a raincoat, carrying her bag. She was trying to leave. She was trying to escape with my heir. Damn it. I didn't call security. I didn't want a scene. I ran. I sprinted down the stairs, out the back door, into the pouring rain. "Simi?" I screamed, the wind tearing the name from my throat. She froze at the gate, struggling with the electronic keypad. She turned when she heard me. Her face was soaked, her eyes wild with panic. "Open it," she screamed, pounding on the metal. "Let me out. Get away from the gate." I reached her, grabbing her arm. Her skin was ice cold. "Let me go. I have to see her. I have a bad feeling. My spirit tells me she needs me." She fought me, scratching at my hands, kicking. She was strong, fueled by desperation. "You are hysterical. Come back inside." "No. I don't want your money. Keep it. Just let me go." She pushed me, slipping on the wet mud. She went down hard, landing on her side with a sickening thud. "Simi?" My heart stopped. The baby. I dropped to my knees in the mud, ignoring my silk pajamas. Simi? Are you okay? She curled into a ball, clutching her stomach. A low moan escaped her lips. It hurts. Bolanle, it hurts. It was the first time she had used my first name. Panic, raw and primal, exploded in my chest. I scooped her up into my arms. She was lighter than I expected, fragile as a bird. Her head lolled against my chest, the rain plastering her hair to her face. I've got you, I gasped, running back toward the house. Hold on. Just hold on. I kicked the back door open. Mrs. Ocone. Call the doctor. Now. I carried her into the living room and laid her on the white sofa, not caring about the mud and blood staining the fabric. She was shivering violently, her eyes rolling back. Please, she whispered, grabbing my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Don't let me lose it. Please, not the baby. I squeezed her hand, terrified. This wasn't about the heir anymore. It wasn't about the legacy or the will. I looked at this woman, this fierce, stubborn, beautiful woman who was fighting for a life she was contractually obligated to give away. You won't lose it, I promised, brushing the wet hair from her forehead. My voice shook. I won't let anything happen to you. Mrs. Ocone ran in. The doctor is 10 minutes away. Sir, she's bleeding. I looked down. A stain was spreading on her tracksuit. The power struggle with my uncle, the boardroom wars, the fortune. It all vanished. The only thing that mattered was the heartbeat inside her, and the woman who was looking at me with trust for the very first time. Suddenly the front doors blew open. I looked up, expecting the doctor. But it wasn't the doctor. Standing in the doorway, dripping wet and holding a camera, was a journalist from the Lagos Tribune. And behind him, smiling that vulture smile, was my uncle, Chief Badmus. Well, Badmus boomed, his voice filling the room. What do we have here? The bachelor billionaire, a secret lover, and, is that a miscarriage in progress? The journalist raised his camera. Flash, flash, flash. This will make a wonderful headline tomorrow, Badmus sneered. Awolowo's secret shame. You can kiss the CEO position goodbye, nephew. Simi groaned in pain, tightening her grip on my hand. I looked at my uncle, then at the camera, then down at Simi's pale face. I had to make a choice. Save my reputation or save her. Get out. The words left my mouth as a whisper, but they carried the weight of a death sentence. The journalist hesitated, his camera still raised, the flash whining as it recharged. My uncle, Chief Badmus, chuckled, stepping further into the room, his muddy shoes soiling the Persian rug. Don't be rude, Bolanle, Badmus sneered, gesturing to Simi, who was curled on the sofa, clutching her stomach and groaning. We are just documenting the truth for the shareholders. They have a right to know their CEO is keeping a mistress in the estate. A mistress who seems to be losing the asset you promised the board. Simi let out a sharp cry of pain. That sound shattered my restraint. The cold, calculated businessman vanished. In his place was a man possessed by a primal need to protect. I moved. I crossed the room in 2 strides. Before the journalist could snap another photo, I grabbed the camera by the lens, ripped it from his hands and smashed it against the marble floor. Plastic and glass exploded everywhere. Hey! The journalist shouted, backing away in terror. If you don't leave my house in 10 seconds, I snarled, stepping into his personal space, my hands balled into fists. I will not just break your camera. I will break the hand that held it. The journalist didn't wait for Badmus. He turned and fled into the rain. I turned my gaze to my uncle. Badmus stopped smiling. He saw something in my eyes he hadn't seen since my father was alive, pure, unadulterated authority. You are trespassing, uncle, I said, my voice shaking with suppressed rage. Get out. And if I see one word of this in the papers, I will release the audit files on the construction projects you managed in 2015. You know the ones. The ones with the missing billions. Badmus paled. His arrogance evaporated. He straightened his agbada, trying to regain his dignity. You are making a mistake, boy. Emotions are bad for business. Out. I roared. He scrambled out the door, disappearing into the storm. I slammed the door shut and engaged the heavy bolts. Silence returned to the room, broken only by Simi's ragged breathing. I rushed back to the sofa, dropping to my knees. The stain on her tracksuit hadn't spread, but she was trembling violently. Simi, I said, my voice softening instantly. Look at me. The ambulance is too slow. I'm taking you myself. My mother. She whispered, her eyes squeezed shut. I failed her. You haven't failed anyone, I said, scooping her up again. Hold on to me. The drive to St. Nicholas Hospital was a blur of rain and red taillights. Sunday drove the SUV like a man possessed, weaving through the Lagos traffic while I sat in the back, holding Simi. She had passed out from the pain and shock. Her head rested on my shoulder, her hand limp in mine. I looked down at her face, relaxed in unconsciousness. She looked so young, so innocent. Why had I been so cruel? Why had I treated her like an incubator? Because you are afraid, a voice inside me whispered. You are afraid that if you treat her like a human, you will remember what it feels like to care. And you swore you'd never care again. I squeezed her hand. Don't you dare give up, Simisola. Do you hear me? You are a fighter. You stood up to me in my own office. Don't let this beat you. When we arrived at the emergency entrance, a team of nurses was waiting. They whisked her away on a gurney. I tried to follow, but a stern matron held up a hand. Wait here, Mr. Awolowo. We will update you. I was left standing in the sterile white hallway, my silk pajamas stained with mud and blood, looking like a madman. I collapsed onto a plastic chair, burying my face in my hands. I prayed. I hadn't prayed since the day my parents died in that plane crash. I had decided then that God didn't listen to boys like me. But tonight I bargained. Save the baby, I pleaded. And save her. If you save them, I will be better. I will be the man my father wanted me to be. Hours passed. The hospital quieted down as midnight came and went. Finally, at 2 a.m., Dr. Balogun emerged. He looked tired but calm. I stood up, my heart hammering against my ribs. Well? It was a placental abruption scare, he said, removing his glasses. Caused by extreme stress in the fall. But the bleeding has stopped. The fetal heartbeat is strong. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, sagging against the wall. And Simi? She is sedated, but she is fine. She needs absolute bed rest for at least a week. No stress. No shouting. No drama, Mr. Awolowo. He gave me a pointed look. She is awake now. She is asking for you. For me? Actually, the doctor hesitated. She is asking for her mother. And since you are the one paying the bills, she thinks you are the gatekeeper. I nodded, feeling a heavy stone of guilt settle in my stomach. Can I see her? Briefly. I walked into the private room. It was dimly lit. The monitor beeped rhythmically, the sound of the miracle I had almost destroyed. Simi was lying in the bed, looking small against the white sheets. And 4-line ran into her arm. When I entered, she turned her head away, staring at the wall. Simi, I said softly, standing at the foot of the bed. Is the baby gone? She asked, her voice raspy. No. The baby is safe. Strong heart. She closed her eyes, a single tear tracking down her temple. Thank God. I am sorry, I said. The words felt foreign on my tongue. I hadn't apologized to anyone in 10 years. She opened her eyes and looked at me. Sorry for what? For locking me up? For making me beg to see my dying mother? Yes, I said simply. For all of it. I was afraid. I thought if I controlled everything, nothing would go wrong. I see now that I was wrong. I pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. I want to show you something. I took out my phone and dialed a number. A moment later, a video call connected. A nurse's face appeared. Yes, Mr. Awolowo? Is Mrs. Adebayo awake? Yes, sir. She just finished her dialysis. She is feeling much better today. Put her on. I turned the phone screen toward Simi. Simi's eyes widened. She struggled to sit up, wincing. Mama? On the screen, an older woman with Simi's high cheekbones and kind eyes smiled weakly. She was sitting up in a hospital bed, looking frail but alive. Simi? Her mother's voice was thin but warm. My daughter. Look at you. You look tired. Simi burst into tears. Mama. Oh, Mama. I missed you so much. Are you okay? Are they treating you well? I am fine, Omomi, her mother said. The doctors here are angels. And the food, I ate chicken today. Can you imagine? Her mother looked past Simi, squinting at the camera. And who is that handsome man holding the phone? Is that your boss? Simi looked at me. For a second, I thought she would tell her mother the truth, that I was the monster who bought her womb. That I was the jailer. Yes, Mama, Simi said, wiping her eyes. This is Mr. Bolanle. My boss. Mr. Bolanle, her mother said, bowing her head slightly. Thank you. God will bless you. You have saved my life. My daughter told me she got a job as a personal assistant, but I didn't know her boss was a man sent by God. I felt a lump in my throat. Sent by God. If she only knew. It is my honor, Ma, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Your daughter she is very special. You raised a queen. Simi looked at me sharply, shock registering on her face. "I will let you rest, Mama," Simi said. "I love you. I love you too. Be a good girl." The call ended. Simi stared at the blank screen, then looked up at me. The hatred in her eyes was gone, replaced by confusion and something else, curiosity. "Why did you do that?" she asked quietly. "You could have just told me she was okay." "You needed to see it," I said. "And, you were right. In the office that day. You said I was poor because I had no one. You were right. I looked at you fighting for your mother tonight, running into the rain, and I realized I have never fought for anyone like that. And no one has ever fought for me." "That is sad," she said. It wasn't an insult. It was an observation filled with pity. "It is," I agreed. "But we have a deal, Simisola. I promised you healing for your mother. I intend to keep that promise. And in return, I need you to trust me. Not as your boss, but as the father of the child you are carrying. Can we start over? A new beginning?" She studied my face, searching for the lie. She didn't find one. "No more locking me in," she said firmly. "If I want to see her, I see her." "Agreed. Once you are discharged, I will have a driver take you to visit her twice a week. Under supervision for safety, but you will go. And I want to eat spicy food. The chef cooks like he is afraid of pepper." I laughed. It was a rusty sound, surprising us both. "I will tell the chef to increase the habanero budget. Deal?" She hesitated, then extended her hand. "Deal." I took her hand. Her skin was warm against mine. A spark, electric and undeniable, shot up my arm. I pulled away gently, clearing my throat. "Rest now. I will stay outside." "Bolanle?" I paused at the door. "Yes. You don't have to stay outside. There is a chair here. It looks uncomfortable, but you look like you need to rest too." I looked at the chair, then at her. The barrier between us, the wall of money and contracts, had cracked. "Okay," I said. I sat in the chair, watching the rise and fall of her chest as she drifted off to sleep. For the first time in years, the loneliness of my existence felt a little less heavy. 3 days later, we returned to the mansion. The dynamic had shifted. The house didn't feel as cold. Mrs. Okon fussed over Simi, setting her up in the main living room with pillows and blankets, ignoring my instructions about the West Wing. I didn't correct her. Simi and I fell into a routine. I worked from home, sitting at the dining table with my laptop while she read or knitted on the sofa. We talked. Not about business but about life. She told me about growing up in Surulere, about the noise and the color and the community. I told her about boarding school in England, the cold winters and the isolation. We were building a bridge. Unity was slowly replacing hostility. One evening, as the sun set over the lagoon, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange, I closed my laptop. "I have a surprise for you," I said. Simi looked up from her book. Her skin was glowing, her health returning. She looked breathtaking. "Another video call?" "No. Come with me." I led her to the garage. But instead of the limousine, I opened the door to a vintage convertible I hadn't driven in years. "Where are we going?" she asked, eyeing the car. "To get suya," I said, grinning. "From that spot in Glover Court you wouldn't shut up about." Her face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Are you serious? The billionaire eats street food." "The billionaire is willing to try," I said, opening the door for her. We drove out of the estate with the top down, the warm Lagos wind in our hair. For an hour we were just two people. We bought spicy beef suya wrapped in old newspaper and ate it in the car, laughing as the pepper burned our tongues. I watched her laugh, a free musical sound that did something dangerous to my heart. I was falling. I knew it, and it terrified me. But as we pulled back up to the gates of the mansion, reality crashed back in. A crowd of reporters was camped outside the gate. Flashbulbs erupted like lightning as they saw my car. "What is happening?" Simi asked, her smile vanishing. I maneuvered the car through the gates as security held them back. I saw a newspaper held up against the window. The headline screamed in bold black letters. "Billionaire Surrogate Scandal. Awolowo impregnates homeless maid? Shareholders demand resignation." My stomach dropped. Badmus hadn't just leaked the story. He had twisted it into something dirty, something that threatened to destroy everything I had built. I looked at Simi. She was staring at the crowd, her hand on her stomach, fear returning to her eyes. "Bolanle," she whispered. I reached over and took her hand, gripping it tight. "Don't look at them," I said fiercely. "Look at me. We are going to fight this. Together." But as I drove up the long driveway, I wondered if even my money could save us from the storm that was about to break. The silence of the mansion was gone. It had been replaced by the incessant, shrill ringing of telephones. Tund, my assistant, was pacing the living room, sweating through his shirt. He had 3 phones in his hands, juggling calls from investors, board members, and PR crisis teams. "Sir, the stock has dropped 12% since the market opened," Tund said, his voice trembling. "The shareholders are panicking. They say the brand image is compromised. They are calling for an emergency vote of no confidence tomorrow morning." I stood by the window, peering through the blinds. The reporters were still there, a pack of wolves waiting for a scrap of meat. The limousine was trapped in the garage. We couldn't leave without being swarmed. "Let them vote," I said, my voice low. "I built this company. I doubled its value in 5 years. They won't fire me over a rumor." "It's not just a rumor anymore, sir," Tund hesitated. "Chief Badmus went on live TV an hour ago. He claimed you are mentally unstable. He said you are being manipulated by a gold-digging street girl who you picked up from the gutter." I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles turned white. "Badmus. He was burning the house down just so he could rule over the ashes." I turned to look at Simi. She was sitting in the corner of the room, her hands resting protectively on her stomach. She had heard everything. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with guilt. She looked small, frightened, and utterly abandoned by the world outside. "Bolanle," she whispered. "Is it true? Will you lose the company?" "It's just business, Simi," I lied, walking over to her. "Don't worry about it." "It's not just business," she argued, her voice rising. "It's your father's legacy. You told me. You told me how he built the first factory with his bare hands. You told me it's the only thing that matters to you." "That was before," I said. I sat down next to her on the sofa. The air between us was thick with unsaid words. The unity we had built over suya and shared stories felt fragile under the weight of the power struggle outside. "Simi," I said, taking her hand, "my uncle wants me to deny you. He sent a message through the lawyers. If I hold a press conference, call you a surrogate, say it was a lapse in judgment, and pay you off to leave, the board will back down. They want me to be the cold-hearted billionaire again." Her breath hitched. She pulled her hand away. "Then do it. That was the contract, wasn't it? I am the surrogate. You are the billionaire. Why are you hesitating?" "Because," I said, looking deep into her eyes, "I don't want you to leave." The confession hung in the air. "Bolanle. I don't know what this is," I admitted, frustration leaking into my voice. "I don't do feelings. I don't do relationships. But the thought of you walking out that door, the thought of my son growing up without hearing your laugh, it terrifies me more than losing the CO chair." Simi stared at me, her dark eyes searching mine. Slowly she reached out and touched my face. Her palm was soft against my beard. "You are not a monster," she whispered. "You are a good man, Bolanle Awolowo. A soft-hearted man hiding in a hard shell." I leaned into her touch. For a moment, the ringing phones and the shouting reporters faded away. There was just us. I closed the distance between us, my lips brushing hers. It wasn't a hungry kiss, it was a promise. A seal of destiny. "I will fix this," I murmured against her lips. "I won't let them win. And I won't lose you." I stood up, filled with a new resolve. "Tund," I barked. "Sir?" "Call the board. Tell them I am calling an emergency meeting here at the estate tonight. If they want to fire me, they can look me in the eye and do it." The hours leading up to the meeting were agonizing. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the mansion. Simi went to the guest room to rest. "I need to lie down," she had said, her voice faint. "The baby is kicking." "Rest," I told her. "I will come for you when it is over. We will celebrate." At 8 p.m. the black cars started arriving. Security cleared a path through the reporters. One by one, the board members entered the grand dining hall. They looked grave. Stern men and women in dark suits who cared only about profit margins. And at the head of the table sat Chief Badmus, looking triumphant. I walked in, flanked by Tund. I didn't sit. I stood at the head of the table, projecting every ounce of authority I possessed. "Gentlemen, ladies," I began. "You are here to discuss my future." "We are here to discuss the company's reputation," Badmus interrupted, slamming his hand on the table. "This circus with the maid. It is unacceptable. We have morals, Bolanle." "Morals?" I laughed coldly. "You talk of morals, uncle? Shall we discuss the kickbacks you took from the refinery project? Or the shell companies in Panama?" The room went deadly silent. Badmus's eyes bulged. "I am the Awolowo Group," I said, my voice rising. "I am the one who secured the Chinese partnership. I am the one who tripled the dividends. My personal life is not up for debate. And the woman carrying my heir is not a maid. She is the mother of the next generation of this fortune. If you oust me, I will sell my majority shares to our biggest competitor by morning. I will burn this empire to the ground before I let you steal it. Gasps rang out around the table. It was a bluff, mostly, but it was delivered with the conviction of a man who had nothing left to lose. The chairman of the board, an elderly man named Alhaji Musa, cleared his throat. He looked from me to Badmus. Bolanle, Musa said slowly, we do not want to lose you. You are the best mind in this industry. But this scandal, it must be managed. We need assurance that this situation will not distract you. It won't, I said firm. The mother and the child are under my protection. But I remain the CEO. That is the offer. Take it or I walk. The board members whispered among themselves. Badmus looked furious, veins throbbing in his forehead. Finally Musa nodded. Agreed. You stay. But Badmus remains on the board as an advisor. Fine, I spat. Get out of my house. I had won. It was a messy victory, but I had kept the company and I had kept Simi. The board members filed out. Badmus stopped by me on his way out. You think you have won? He hissed, his breath smelling of stale cigars. But you forget, nephew. Women like that, they have a conscience. Did you tell her what you sacrificed to keep her? Did you tell her that as long as she stays, the world will call her a gold digger and your child a bastard? I made sure she knows. What are you talking about? I demanded. I had a little chat with her, Badmus smiled cruelly. Before the meeting, I slipped into the guest wing. Security is very lax when they are watching the front gate. My blood ran cold. If you touched her. I didn't touch her. I just told her the truth. That she is the anchor dragging you down. That if she truly loves you, she will set you free. He laughed and walked away. Panic, sharp and blinding, seized me. I turned and sprinted out of the dining hall, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Simi? I shouted. I burst into the guest room. The bed was made. The pillows were fluffed. The room was empty. Simi? I tore open the bathroom door. Empty. I checked the closet. Her few belongings, the faded Ankara dress, the sandals, were gone. On the bedside table, sitting next to the diamond necklace I had bought her as a thank you gift but never given her, was a piece of paper. My hands shook as I picked it up. Bolanle, your uncle is right. I am a stain on your white suit. I saw the way the reporters looked at you today. I saw the shame I brought to your gates. You were ready to burn your father's legacy for me. I cannot let you do that. A king needs a kingdom, not a seamstress. I will take care of your son. He will know his father was a great man. But we cannot be part of your world. Don't come looking for me. If you try to find me, I will disappear so deep into the village you will never see the baby. Let us go. It is the only way you survive. I love you, Simi. I crushed the letter in my hand. A primal roar of anguish ripped from my throat, echoing through the empty mansion. She was gone. She had sacrificed herself to save me. I ran to the window. The rain had started again, a torrential downpour battering Lagos. Somewhere out there, in the dark, dangerous city, the woman I loved was carrying my child, alone and unprotected. I grabbed my phone. Sunday. Get the car. Get security. Get everyone. Sir, where are we going? Tund asked, running into the room. We are going to find her, I snarled, my eyes burning with tears. And I don't care if I have to tear every building in Lagos apart brick by brick. No one takes my family from me. Lagos in the rain is a beast. The roads turn into rivers, the traffic turns into a parking lot, and the city screams in frustration. But that night, my convoy parted the chaos like the Red Sea. Drive on the sidewalk if you have to. I shouted at Sunday, gripping the dashboard of the SUV. Just get us to Surulere. Sir, the GPS signal died near Ojalegba, Tun said from the back seat, his laptop glowing in the dark. That was 10 minutes ago. If she turned her phone off. She didn't turn it off, I said, my gut twisting. The battery died. She doesn't have a charger. She left with nothing. I knew where she was going. She had told me once, during those quiet evenings in the library, about the only place she felt safe when the world crushed her. St. Jude's Anglican Church. The porch where she and her mother slept the night before they met me. We tore through the flooded streets of the mainland, the luxury SUV splashing mud onto the hawkers and pedestrians. I didn't care. I didn't care about my image. I didn't care about the board. I was a man hunting for his heart. When we screeched to a halt in front of the old, weathered church, the rain was coming down in sheets. I jumped out before the car stopped moving. "Simi?" I roared, sprinting through the muddy courtyard. The church doors were locked, but the side porch was open, sheltered by a corrugated tin roof. I ran toward it, my Italian leather shoes sinking into the muck. And there she was. She was huddled in the corner on a wooden bench, wrapped in her wet shawl, shivering violently. But she wasn't just cold. She was rocking back and forth, clutching her stomach, letting out low guttural moans. "Simi?" I slid onto my knees beside her. She looked up, her eyes glazed with pain and fever. "Bolanle?" she whispered, her teeth chattering. You shouldn't be here. Go back. Go back to your castle." "Shut up," I said, my voice breaking. "You stubborn, foolish woman. You think you can decide my life for me?" "I am saving you," she gasped, gripping my wet shirt. "Your uncle, he said you would lose everything. I can't be the reason you fall. I have already fallen." I shouted over the thunder. "I fell for you. The company means nothing if I come home to an empty house. The legacy means nothing if my son doesn't know his mother." Suddenly she arched her back, a scream tearing from her throat. "The baby? Bolanle, something is wrong. It's too early." I looked down. Water and blood were pooling on the wooden bench. She was in labor. 7 months. Was too soon. "Tund?" I screamed backward toward the cars. "Call the hospital. Tell them we are coming in hot. Code red." I scooped her up. She was burning up, her body convulsing with each contraction. "I'm scared," she sobbed into my neck as I carried her to the car. "I'm so scared." "I've got you," I promised, climbing into the back seat with her, refusing to let go. "I am never letting you go again." The next 6 hours were a blur of white lights, beeping machines, and terrifying silence. I stood outside the operating theater at St. Nicholas, pacing a hole in the floor. My uncle, Chief Badmus, had tried to call me 3 times. I threw my phone into the trash can. I didn't need it. I didn't need the outside world. Finally, the doors swung open. Dr. Balogun stepped out. He looked exhausted, his surgical mask hanging around his neck. I stopped breathing. "Mr. Awolowo," he said softly. "Tell me," I demanded, my voice a husk. "It was touch and go," he said. "The stress caused a premature rupture. But Simi is a fighter. And your son, he is small, Bolanle. Very small. But he has lungs like a lion." My knees gave out. I collapsed into the plastic waiting chair, burying my face in my hands, weeping uncontrollably. "They are both alive?" I choked out. "They are both alive. Simi is in recovery. The baby is in the NICU incubator. You can see them." I stood up, wiping my face. "Doctor, one more thing." "Yes." "My uncle, Chief Badmus. Is he in the lobby?" "He is. He has been telling the press that you are having a mental breakdown." I straightened my spine. The fear was gone. In its place was a cold, righteous anger. "Tund?" I called out to my assistant who was sleeping in the corner. "Sir?" Tund jumped up. "Bring me the laptop. And bring me the files on the Lekki Bridge project. The unredacted ones." I walked out to the lobby. Cameras flashed. Badmus was standing there, holding court, looking like the grieving uncle. "Ah, Bolanle," he said, stepping forward with a fake smile. "Thank God you are here. I have arranged a press statement. We will say the stress of the situation caused a temporary lapse in your—" "You are fired," I said. The lobby went silent. "Excuse me?" Badmus laughed nervously. "You cannot fire me. I am a board member." "Not anymore," I said, signaling Tund to connect the laptop to the large waiting room TV screen usually reserved for news. Suddenly, documents appeared on the screen. Bank transfers. Emails. Proof of millions of naira siphoned off into Badmus's private accounts. "This," I addressed the reporters, pointing at the screen, "is evidence of embezzlement, fraud, and corporate sabotage. My uncle, Chief Badmus, has been stealing from the Awolowo Group for 10 years. He leaked the story about Miss Adebayo to distract you from the audit I ordered last week. It was a lie. I hadn't ordered the audit until right now, but it worked." The reporters swarmed Badmus like sharks smelling blood. "This is a lie." Badmus screamed as my security guards, grabbed his arms. "Get him out of my sight," I ordered. "And call the police." I turned my back on the chaos and walked back through the double doors. I was done with the noise. I had a family to meet. 1 year later, the garden of the Banana Island mansion was transformed. Gone were the stiff, formal hedges. In their place were colorful flower beds, a swing set, and tables laden with jollof rice, pounded yam, and massive coolers of drinks. Highlife music drifted through the air. It was our son's first birthday. Daniel Bolanle Awolowo was currently waddling across the grass, chasing a balloon, his laughter ringing out like a bell. He was strong, healthy, and had his mother's eyes. I stood on the patio watching him. I wasn't wearing a suit. I was wearing a simple white buba and sokoto, relaxed and happy. "You are staring again," a voice said beside me. I turned to see Simi. She was radiant in gold lace, her head tied in a magnificent geli. She wasn't the scared seamstress anymore. She was the mistress of this house, not by contract but by love. She had started her own fashion line, Simi's Threads, and it was the talk of Lagos. "I can't help it," I said, wrapping my arm around her waist. "I still can't believe he's real. I can't believe we are real." "Believe it, billionaire," she teased, adjusting my collar. "You are stuck with us." "Good." I looked across the lawn. Simi's mother, fully recovered after her kidney transplant, was dancing with Mrs. Okon. Tund was eating his third plate of rice. The house was full of life. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. It was taped back together, the letter she had left me that night. "Why do you still keep that?" Simi asked softly. "To remind me," I said, kissing her forehead. "To remind me that the greatest fortune I ever made wasn't in the boardroom. It was the day I ran into the rain to find you." I took a lighter from the table and set the edge of the paper on fire. We watched it burn until it was nothing but ash, carried away by the gentle Lagos breeze. The contract was gone. The past was gone. "Come," Simi said, taking my hand. "Your son is about to face-plant into the birthday cake." I laughed, a true deep sound that came from my soul. "Let's go save the cake." We walked hand in hand onto the grass, surrounded by family, love, and the beautiful, chaotic music of a life well lived. The billionaire had found his heart. And the surrogate had found her home. Love wins. The end. Thank you so much for reading. She agreed to be the billionaire surrogate and fell in love. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the Royal Griot and hit that notification bell. We have so many more emotional, heartwarming stories coming your way. See you in the next story.